today's video, I'll talk about the best $850 PC build that you can buy right now. Now, this is my opinion, maybe you have a better list, leave it in the comment section if you have a better one, but I think this list is the best one for 1080p, 60 FPS gaming, basically in every single game that you play. Now, if you are more into Prebuilt PCs because you don't want to build it by yourself, that's completely fine. I have a bunch of videos about Prebuilt PCs, but you can go ahead and watch my top 5 Prebuilt PCs of the month or my top 5 budget Prebuilt PCs of the month that you will have in the top right of the screen. Now, without more to say, let's start with this gaming PC build. With this gaming PC build, for the processor, I went with the i3-12100F. I think this one is the best one in terms of price performance right now. Of course, this is a gaming CPU, so if you're thinking of doing multitasking, streaming, I would go with at least an i5 processor instead of the i3 one, but it's going to be, of course, much more expensive, and I wanted to make a budget PC for gaming at 1080p, and that's why I didn't put the i5 or an i7 because those are more expensive options. But if you have the money to buy them and you're good with your budget, then it's totally worth the upgrade. Then for the CPU cooler, I didn't want this stock CPU cooler from Intel, so I went ahead and put a budget CPU cooler, this one being the Arctic Freezer 34 air cooler. Again, it's going to work just fine with the i3-12100F. If you're going with the i5 or the i7, then you need to upgrade the CPU cooler as well, but because we are using this i3, totally fine, it's going to get the job done for this PC build. Then for the motherboard, I actually went with a more expensive option, the Asus Prime H670 Plus, and this is because for future upgradability, I wanted to be able to overclock the CPU in the future. Of course, not the i3, but if you upgrade the CPU, I want you to be able to overclock this stuff, and that's why I didn't pick an ultra budget motherboard. For the RAM, I went ahead and picked 16GB of RAM, 2x8 of course, CL16 memory at 3200MHz for $50. I think for the price that you're paying is great, and you don't need more for gaming. 16GB of RAM, it's a sweet spot. 8GB of RAM, it's a little bit short, and more than 16 I think is not worth it for 1080p gaming, so 16GB of RAM, I think it's a great option. Then for the storage, I went ahead and picked 500GB of M.2 SSD. Now this might be enough for you, but maybe it's not. That really depends on the games that you want to play. If you want to play games like Valorant and CSGO, 500GB are going to be way more than enough. But if you're going to play a lot of games like Red Dead Redemption 2, GTA 5, Flight Simulator, then you will need more storage, but I think 500GB of SSD for the price that you're paying is going to be perfect for a PC build. Then for the graphics card and the most important part of a PC build, I went and put the RX 6500 XT, but let me explain. If you want a better option, you can either go ahead and buy a 6600 or a 6600 XT. That's going to be much more expensive, but you can do that. But if you don't want to do that and you also don't want the RX 6500 XT because of the bad reviews, you can go ahead on eBay and buy a second-hand GPU, but make sure it has more than 4GB of VRAM to play new modern video games, because that is the main problem with the 6500 XT. The problem is the 4GB of VRAM for the newest modern games. But if you're not going to play those games, if you're interested in Valorant, CSGO, like I said before, even GTA 5 and games like that, I think the 6500 XT for 1080p gaming is going to work really great actually. And for games like Fortnite as well, the only games that you are not going to be able to run are going to be like Apex Legends Ultra settings, because these type of games are going to use more than 4GB of VRAM at the highest settings. You can of course play them on the lowest settings, but that is the main issue. Search your favorite games VRAM limits and how much VRAM is going to take at the ultra settings. If it's going to be less than 4GB, I think the 6500 XT is going to be actually a great choice for you, and it's really similar to the GTX 1650 Super, which is much more expensive than this RX GPU. So I don't think it's a terrible deal. It really depends on what you're going to play. Like I said before, if you want to play at 1440p, or maybe you want to play the newest games that require more than 4GB of VRAM, then you don't want to get this GPU. But again, if you're going to play just 1080p, not the newest games, you want to play maybe like the classic games, then this one is going to be the right one for you. But make sure you search for your favorite game on Google or YouTube, whatever, and search the VRAM configuration for these games, because that is going to determine if this GPU is worth it or not for you. But I picked it because it's really cheap and it's actually going to get the job done. And like I said before, this PC build, it's upgradable, so in the future you can change it of course, because I made it upgradable. And how did I do this? Basically, I put the Corsair 750 watts 80 plus gold power supply. This one is going to give you a lot of room for improvement in the future. Maybe you want to put like the RTX 2060 Super, 3060, whatever RTX you want to put in here, you're going to be able to do that because of this power supply. And then lastly, for the case, I went with the Fantex Eclipse P300A with a front mesh panel that is going to work just great for the airflow overall for this PC. So I think the total PC is actually great for 1080p gaming if you're searching, like I said before, 1080p gaming, 60 FPS experience, and even more of course in competitive games. For those games you're going to be able to average around 144 frames per second or even more depending on the settings of course. So if you're searching for that experience, I think this one for the price will deliver an excellent performance. And if you have a higher budget, I would actually upgrade the storage for a 1TB SSD and the total price will be around $900. And if you even have around $1,000 or $1,100, then upgrade the GPU to the GTX 1660 Super at least, where you get 6GB of VRAM. That's going to make a huge difference, of course depending on the games you play. Now we are going to compare this PC build with a Prebuilt PC, actually with an OEM system that I usually recommend. This one is the HP Victus 15L. This one is $850, so same price basically, but here there are some differences. You get 8GB of RAM, so that's less than the PC build. You get it at 2x4GB of RAM, so that's dual channel. That is something really good because usually Prebuilt PCs at this price point only have 1 stick of RAM, and that is terrible. Then you get 256GB of SSD, which is a little bit less SSD than the PC build. You can upgrade this by clicking on customize and buy and changing it, but the price is going to be higher of course. But then for the GPU and CPU combination, you get the GTX 1660 Super, so you get more VRAM, you get a way better GPU actually. And then for the CPU you get the i5-12400, so once again a better CPU than the i3-12100F. So I think this one is going to be a much better option for performance right now. If you want performance right now, definitely go with a Prebuilt PC, go with the Victus and upgrade the storage and the RAM down the line if you don't have the money to right now. But the thing that the PC build has that the HP doesn't is the upgradability. This HP is more of a once in a lifetime use. You want to plug it in, game, and you don't care, you're never going to open the gaming PC to do major upgrades, where on the PC build you have a lot of room for upgradability because of the power supply, case and motherboard. So keep that in mind. If you want performance for right now, the HP is by far the winner here, but if you want to play at 1080p and upgrade it in the future, then the PC build is going to be the right one for you. So ask yourself if you want performance right now or you want future upgradability. When you have the answer to that question, then go ahead and buy one of these two, because I think these two are great options for the price that you're paying. So that was my whole video. If you found it helpful, leave a like and subscribe, but most importantly hit the bell button so you get notified when I upload this type of content. Remember that one of the most important parts for a PC gaming, of course, is a PC gaming itself, but the second thing is the monitor. If you have a 1080p 60Hz monitor, then any gaming PC is going to support that basically. But if you want a smoother experience, then you should buy a 144Hz monitor for one of these PCs. Now if you don't know anything about monitors, don't worry about it, I have a whole video around it so you can check that out. But what I'm saying here is the monitor is really important for gaming experience actually. So thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.